Hi and welcome to the 3 basic techniques section of this workshop. So on screen you can now see a sample of what the 3 basic techniques look like. So I'm going to take you through step by step in doing each one of these techniques. This will be something that you will need to practice until you have mastered your technique. So the 3 basic techniques, first of all, is the engraving technique, the low relief technique, and then the high relief technique. And by combining these 3 techniques, we can do various designs. Besides the 3 techniques, you would eventually learn how to do layering work, how to work with stencils, and then we also look later on into background textures, etching designs, etc. But to start off with, you need to master these 3 basic techniques. So if we look at the engraving technique, the basic principle of the technique is drawing a line downwards into your pewter and then flattening the area around your design so that it looks like a line that is engraved into the pewter. We then fill that line with black patina or any other coloring agent, polish the pewter and seal it. This is a design technique that you do not need any filling medium. It can be immediately fixed onto your item that you want to use it. The second technique that we look at is our low relief technique. So this is a low line that we do from the back of our pewter, and then we flatten the sides again, but it is raised. It is not downwards like the engraving technique, it is upwards, so it is a low relief design. The low relief design, you do not need to fill with any filler. It is not going to press down when you put pressure onto it. It is too low. After the low relief design, we look at a high relief design. A high relief design is a design done by adding height from the back of the design of the pewter, and we have to fill it at the end of our design with a filling medium like beeswax, because it's so high that if we apply pressure onto it, it will lose shape or destroy our design. So these are the 3 basic techniques that we're going to look at in this workshop. To start off, we need a design that is printed or one of your own freehand designs on a piece of paper, and then we adhere our printed design onto our piece of pewter that we've cut to the same size or a little bit bigger than our design. I do it a little bit bigger so that I have room to work with my pewter, and then I cut it smaller just before I apply it to my item. So in this first section of the basic techniques, we're going to do the engraving technique. So I've now already printed my design, and I'm now going to trace it using a normal ballpoint pen, and we do our tracing on our hard surface. So when you trace, you need to apply a medium to a soft pressure on your pewter. You don't want to trace in a hard pressure so that you thin out the pewter too much on your tracing lines. So I'm using a medium to a soft pressure, and it's just a matter of tracing the design as accurately as possible. And then my pewter is not fixed to my hard surface, so I can turn my design as needed so that I'm comfortable drawing over my design. And I like using a colored pen for this. That way I can easily see where I have traced and where I might have missed an area of my design. when it comes to the straight edges, I like using my ruler for those lines. And then one last time, I'm going to do the outside edge of my design. So this would be my cutting line. It won't be embossed. It's just a guideline of where I need to cut my pewter to size again once I'm done. Okay, so I've now done tracing my design. So if I look at the back of my pewter, you can see that you can barely see the design from the back. You should not be able to really feel the design standing out from the back. If you do feel it, you have traced too hard. You need to then apply a little bit less pressure to it. You just want to see it. You don't want to feel it. You can then remove your design if you did trace very hard and you now do have a bit of a bump in your pewter because of the pressure that you applied, I like then to use a Teflon roller like this one, which I found in a local hardware store, and you also do find the smaller one from Mercard. Make sure that it's nice and clean, and then I like to flatten my pewter before I start with my designs. This way I know I've got a nice flat piece of pewter before starting. Having your pewter as flat as possible during your work is very important. You don't want edges lifting up like that, and then you work here. You always want it nice and smooth. You don't want your pewter to be bent when you're working, because that's going to interfere with how your design is going to turn out. So I like to have my pewter flat before I start with my work, and I constantly, you will see, I constantly flatten my pewter as I go. First off, we need to know, after we've done our tracing, and you can see it is traced by, I'm just turning it, I apply a little bit of lubricant because I'm going to use some metal tools and some Teflon tools. So to minimize the scratches and to allow the tools to glide easier, I like to apply some lubricant. So when working from the front of my pewter now to do the engraving technique, we're going to use our semi-soft surface for that. So on my semi-soft surface, I place my pewter, and then using my 0.5mm ball tool, or if you do have a sharp tip Teflon tool, you can also use that. We're going to just draw in the design, and then we're going to use a medium to a hard pressure when we do that. So working on the front of our pewter on our semi-soft surface using our 0.5mm ball tool, I'm going to start from the center of my design, which in this case is this central piece, and then we're going to work our way out. The reason why we start from the center of our design is after I've done this engraved line, I need to work from within that engraved line to start the next line. If I do start anywhere else, I'm going to have connecting lines somewhere that I can't connect properly, and it's going to make a little bump. But by doing this line first, I have a place to start for all of my other lines. So we're going to do that central piece first. So using a medium to a hard pressure, I'm just going to draw in that line, and I'm drawing towards me so that I have more control over my pressure and over my line. So I've now drawn once and then I repeated it again. So I've got a nice deep recess in my pewter. If I turn it over, you can clearly see it visible from the back. And then we can continue with our next section. So now I'm going to do the bottom 3 pieces first. So starting within that previous line, not in front of it, not behind it, but within that previous line, I do the first curve drawing towards me. I'm again using a medium to a hard pressure, and then I start the next one and I stop at the same point. Again, starting within the previous line and then stopping the point together. We're going to repeat that same process on all the other design lines. Again, always starting within the previous line and then connecting it to the other one. This way you will avoid any bumps in your pewter. I also turn my pewter so that I can always draw as much as possible towards me rather than away from me. You would like to try and do this in one smooth motion. This is something that you will learn by doing a lot of practice work. If you do need to pick up your hand and you have to turn your pewter, or you need to move your hand, do start where you stopped off, ended off here, or start at the point connecting it, and then draw your line and then move over the section where you stopped so that you can smooth out the line. You also need to look at the way you hold your tools. It is similar to the grip of a pen. It is not at the back, because then you don't have pressure at the tip of your tool. You have more pressure at the center. So you want to hold your tool like you would hold a pen. So it is resting on my one finger, and then I've got the grip as close as possible to the front so that I have all my pressure applied to the front of the tool. So once you've done your entire design in the engraved method, we are now ready to flatten the edges around. So we remove our lino sheet because we need to flatten on our hard surface. If we flatten on the lino sheet, we won't be able to get a nice flat surface because the lino sheet is not hard and solid like the hard surface. So I put my pewter still face up on my hard surface, and then using my fingers I go over my design on each side of the lines. I'm not going over the line, I'm going next to those the engraved lines, just flattening the edges, and it will create a little bump on either side of my engraved line. I like to use my hands a lot in my pewter work because it doesn't leave any scratch marks, and I can feel the pewter and see how I can adjust and where do I need to flatten. It's all about the touch. So flattening all around so that I have a nice flat background with a little bit of a bump on either side of the line, giving me the engraved look. And that is the basic engraving technique, which we can now then patina the inside of these lines and then polish. We will do that at the end of our workshop. For now, this is the first technique done.